Hey Broncos guru, here's another one for you.
The strange part of this one to me is typically I would see people around the boat when this happens, and because I don't, it tells me they didn't want to put in the work to try and get this one off, and decided they were going to leave and come back later.
I don't think they're getting off the island until high tide.
Speaking of putting in that work, let's go ahead and make that today's subject. To many people, they think boating's nothing more than getting out there and relaxing and enjoying yourself and having a good time. But the reality is, in most cases, boating can be a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into it. And when you own a boat, sometimes it'll feel like those tasks will never end. The boat always needs something, some sort of maintenance. It might need a little extra cleaning, but there's always something going on. And then of course, there are those who actually go out and work on boats themselves. That's right, boating's their actual job. These people I'm not really that envious of. Even though you might think it sounds like a fun life, the reality is many of us can go out and enjoy boating. These people who actually do this for a living, probably not so much. When they get home, the last thing they want to think about is being on the water.
Broncos guru, I don't know if we've got a category for people who should know better. But if you do, this belongs in it. It's Cape Caparica, which is south of Lisbon in Portugal. This guy decided that he should trawl just behind the surf line on the beach. For the last 3 hours he's been going full throttle, going nowhere at full throttle, trying to dislodge his net from whatever it's caught on the bottom. So he's either got the catch of his life on that net, or it's snagged on a shipwreck or a reef. He's just going back and forth over the last 100 yards, hoping for the best.
Sometimes those commercial boys can just have a bad day out there on the water, and they get judged a little differently for it as well, because most people think they're the pros, they know what they're doing out there, but the reality is these guys are forced to be out there more than the rest of us, and they find themselves in some awkward situations because of that. They gotta work, they have to go, they don't have any choice. Then there are those boys who go out there and put that work in trying to save the rest of us. That's right, you don't necessarily have to be a commercial mariner to get out there on the water and have to put that work in. There are plenty of other roles that people will play going out there and putting work in to help the rest of us. Kind of like those tow truck drivers that have to come out and rescue us once we decide we're going to go for that free boat ramp car wash. Now I have to imagine this creates some awkward situations, as most tow truck drivers didn't sign up to be commercial divers as well, but I guess a tow truck driver has to be a jack of all trades. I can only imagine the stuff they see out there on the road, and when we throw boats in, well, things are going to get even more complex than that. I'm sure they have their hands full just trying to tow cars on the daily, but go ahead and, as we mentioned, add boats, add water, and you create a recipe for disaster, and I'm sure these guys have to come up with some pretty inventive ways on how to tow some of this stuff out. Kind of like this situation here, I'm not even sure where you would begin on this one. And I guess the bigger question here is, how'd they even wind up here? Did they just follow the GPS straight in? Now, as we mentioned, commercial mariners and commercial guys, they have a lot of work to do out there, but the pleasure boaters, they gotta put that work in as well. Boating is hard work, even if you're just going out there trying to have fun, and that work can come in many different forms in many different ways. Sometimes tasks that look like they should be super easy just get amplified when you're out there on the water, making it a whole lot more difficult than you might think it should be. I mean, just take the boat ramp for example. So much wild and crazy stuff happens down at the boat ramp that we have a channel dedicated to nothing but that. And one of the biggest comments we get on the videos on that channel is these people shouldn't even own boats. What are they doing down there? But most people I think who make those comments have never really tried it and realized just how difficult it is to perform some of the tasks you see people doing down at the boat ramp. Don't get me wrong, with a little bit of practice, things do get easier and people do have success, but sometimes it's just hard, especially in the beginning when you're just learning how to get things done. And then of course, the longer you boat, the more you're going to want to do. Eventually you'll probably even want to get into some water sports, which is going to create more work. All of a sudden you have to blow up tubes, carry extra lines, and then of course you've got to learn how to operate the vessel when you're trying to perform those water sports, just like we see here. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boneheaded Boaters of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Adam Coolidge, Damian Clark, Dan Lay, H. Bodine, Jay Edwards, Jake Parcountry, Cooper Says, Phil Ross, and Surf2K did this week. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.